Welcome. We'd like to call this Finance Committee meeting to order. The first item we have is assignment for request for council action. We have 25-222 budget amendments, 25-223 logo request form for the economic development, 25-224 new line item Medina Town and Hall, Town Hall and Engine Museum, 25-225 transfer of MCL 9444 from Medina City Development CAC to City. 25-226, accept 3 SWOMA agreements. 25-227, increased expenditure, Retzel Landers Law Department. 25-228, grant assistance, new hangar at Medina Municipal Airport. 25-229, ODOD, building demolition, site revitalization grant application. 25-230, engineering design services, job number 1176, SR 3 and 57, resurfacing. 25-231 easements, job number 1123, North Huntington reconstruction phase 3. 25-232 accept fair market value estimates for South Huntington Street Bridge. The first item we have is 25-183 electric aggregation program. Mr. Piccoli.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Coyne had asked me if I had the revised contract. I do not. Mr. Huber's not in attendance tonight, but I have the marked up copy. If I could bring your attention real brief to the contract, about a month ago, 2 meetings ago, Mr. Rich came from Great Lakes Energy Brokers and talked to the council and explained how things were going to work with respect to the aggregation and going out to bid. Mr. Huber looked at the contract and under term 4.0, the 4.2, he wants deleted, which is fine. And then under 5.0, the limitation of liability 5.2 section, those have to be deleted. So Mr. Rich was in agreement. But then in talking to Mr. Coyne, and he brought up a good point, under the term, back under 4.0, item 4.1 talks about a 5-year agreement, and that is long. Mr. Huber didn't miss it. He just thought that's what we wanted, but John's right. We just want a 1-year agreement because we'll go out to bid, this fall, early winter, and we don't need a 5-year term. We'll see how it goes. Typically, we have a 3-year contract with respect to the aggregation, so it'll be year 26, 27, and 28, and then we can revisit that in 28, going into 29, and so forth, see how it goes at that point. So I will have the revised contract for the council. I just talked to Ms. Patton. I'll have that most likely tomorrow, and then it'll be ready for council unless you have questions with regard to this programming that we're looking at.
No, I think that we'll just approve it, subject to seeing the final contract with all 3 of those changes in the final contract.
And if I may, I usually don't ask for the emergency clause, but we were looking for a fall bid, and this is November, and we'll be a month after the 24th of November before it goes to the council. And that means the bidding won't happen until winter. So to secure a better price, I would ask that we would consider the emergency clause so that way it can take effect and the bid can go out, for the RFPs that the broker will be soliciting.
Now, how does that bid work? Do we have to accept the bid that he does, or do we just deny them and he goes out and bids again?
Correct. Just like we did when we worked with the last group, the energy brokers. If you remember 3 years ago, we were trying to give them a cap or a window to work in, and they couldn't be met, and we rejected it basically.
Okay.
Mr. President.
Paul?
One question. In the term, is it going to be a 3-year or a 1-year?
So depending on how the RFPs come back, typically in the past, we ran with the initial aggregation, it was an 8-year grant, almost 9, and then the ensuing years have been all 3-year contracts. So I said 3 years, but it could be 1 year, it could be 2, it could be 3, whatever the council decides, whatever.
No, you're not answering this question.
Pardon?
The question.
What do we want in the contract, 3
Right.
years or 1 year?
I'm sorry, I'm thinking of the term 1 year.
Just
Mr.
1 year?
Coyne had mentioned
Okay.
1 year, and that's what I thought I addressed in the beginning when I brought up that you had.
You did say 1, but then you
Yes.
also said 3, and this
Yeah,
old mind had to ask.
The aggregation program will be a 3-year term. Sorry about the confusion, but our contract with the broker, we're looking at 1 year.
Okay.
My
all right,
apologies.
Thank you.
Right, and
So
the-
4 point, I'm sorry, John.
Well, to clarify, Paul, the contracts that the broker's been seeing, some of them have been 1 year, not 3 years. So I guess we can bid both of them out and see what the numbers are. Okay.
Okay.
Mayor?
Thank you.
So 4.1 is changing from 5 to 3.
To
No.
1, correct, Mayor.
5-1.
5 to 1. And then Mr. Huber took out 4.2
Right, yeah, I got those two.
and then 5.2.
But this is not the aggregation, this is the contract for the broker?
Correct, to solicit the RFPs for the
Okay, so the
bidding.
broker can be 1 year and the aggregation can be 3 years?
Correct,
Okay, and that's a separate contract?
yes.
Okay, because
With
I'm
the
a little
council.
bit nervous with limiting us to 1 year, because if it gets bad, we have no choice but to go with it then,
Correct.
right? Okay.
Any other questions?
I'll make a motion to move to approve.
Thank you.
With the emergency clause, but subject to final approval of the contract by the law director.
Second, including emergency clause.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. 25-124, transitioning the Medina TV cable to a communications department. Jared?
I don't know, Mayor, do you want to say anything first before I go?
Right, we've, Todd Hunt, who's with Retzel and Anders now, has done all of our job descriptions in the past. So Mr. Huber, rather than review it and a pin on it, preferred that we send it to Todd. And we had a staff meeting on Friday. We knew this was coming on Monday, so I asked Greg on Friday to get a hold of him and see if we can't nudge that along a little bit. So I would just ask that we have a discussion on it, or if finance wants to pass it, that it's subject to law director approval, and we may have to hold it longer than the next council meeting, depending on how long it takes for Todd to do the review and for Greg to be satisfied with it.
And we're just talking about the job description itself.
Correct, and in the positions, yes. And then I know Civil Service had looked at it, added it to their agenda. They're willing to meet in a special session if needed to move this along as well, once we hear back from Todd Hunt and Greg on that. And then, yeah, that you're looking at the positions here. I can approach and answer any questions you guys might have in regards to those, just in the positions themselves, not necessarily me as the employee, but just as the position itself as we look at this department being created. I think the biggest thing that came out of civil service, and speaking with Kim down there too, is as she looks at that, if we ever had to repost the position, the current position would be quite outdated for her to even get someone to apply for the position. It is something that's kind of being phased away. If you have it listed as a general manager of a cable TV department, as you know, everyone's cutting the cord and going away from that. So this makes good sense to make the transition. I know we've had conversations in the Emerging Technologies Committee meeting about this as well. So I don't want to belabor points, but more than happy to answer any questions you guys have here in regards to this.
Okay, questions?
I will add one thing. The last job descriptions were done in '04. So as you see these job descriptions coming in again, just think to yourselves back in '04 what technology was and what we're looking at 21 years later. So that's something else to keep in mind as you look at the job descriptions.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I was on the Access Committee back when I first started here, and I'm back on the Access Committee. And just in those 15 years, the job has changed dramatically. And the amount of communication that goes out from the city and what Jared and his team have been doing over the years, I think this is it's much needed. This change is much needed to bring us up to at least the 20th century when it comes to some of these things, and 21st century for most of the other things. So I heartily support this request.
Anybody?
Yeah, they do so much, the staff, so many things that are new nowadays with the PAC, negotiations with the county, all these things at the city. It really is a much more global approach than we ever had before. So it's definitely a move in the right direction.
And if you haven't had a chance to check out the new website, it's live.
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to add real quick, Chet brought up a point that made me think about that too. As you look at, I also submitted the salary study for the position as well, and keeping in mind that a lot of those salaries that we submitted to you also don't operate a performing arts center. They also don't handle the contracts with the county and also with other entities. So something else to keep in mind, that it's actually a benefit for the city that we're able to combine these all into one and be able to manage that.
I was just going to say, Jared, are you comfortable if we wait 2 more weeks? Only because I'd feel better the civil service gave their blessing, and I know they're willing to meet the minute that we get them. And then, I don't know if, John, if we could do it next meeting, at least we'd have one more chance to look at things as opposed to being read off.
Yeah, no, I talked to Jared before, and I mentioned to him, even if we go to next year, it's going to be retroactive to January 1st, so I don't have any problem with waiting or doing, because that's no issue with us. Because it may be approved next year, the way it's going.
Yeah, I mean, I'm fine either way that council wants to move forward. I'm fine with that. I was just, like I said, I was kind of looking for that January 1st start date to kind of create a clean transition for
Right.
that.
Understood. That still can be the start date, but like I said, depending on when the civil service do, because we're not going to rush it, so, just so you know.
Okay.
All right. All right, anybody else? All right, well, we'll talk about it next meeting. 25-222 budget amendments, we have 2025-45. Keith?
It's a number of things, just cleaning up lines.
Move to approve. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. 25-223 logo request form. Kimberly?
Thank you, Mr. President. This request is to authorize a logo request form and a $250 licensing fee for the City of Medina logo and the City of Medina America 250 logo usage by businesses or entities that would like to use those logos where they are selling merchandise. Civic and nonprofit organizations not selling merchandise using the logo will not be required to pay the fee to use the logo, but will be required to complete a logo request form. And then we would be requiring all applicants to submit a copy of their document, their signage, promotional materials, or merchandise to the City of Medina for review and approval. So with America 250, we've been getting requests to utilize the logo, and I think council will remember that we went through a process of filing for copyright status. So if entities want to use our logo and they want to sell merchandise, they're going to make money off of it. It's kind of hard to track that if, say they're making, is it 100 T-shirts or 1,000 T-shirts? We really don't know. So we thought of, maybe a flat fee, and I just came up with $250 to try to be reasonable about just trying to recoup some of our money for the cost to hire the patent attorneys that we used, and there's filing fees with the federal government. So we felt like there should be a process in place because we are getting requests to use the America 250 logo, and there are times that we get requests to use our city logo. So we wanted council's blessing on the 250 licensing fee as well as the form, and then the mayor and myself would be the reviewing and approval entities for these requests.
Questions?
Mayor.
Yes, Mayor?
On behalf of Mr. Huber, he felt that administratively we could do approval of the use, but any fees charged are under the legislative authority, so that's why the 250 is here, just to get your blessing. And as Kimberly said, it doesn't have to be 250. We had to pick a number. Thought that was reasonable, thought it was fair, and but we still want some oversight of what it's going to be used for or used on, because obviously our name is on it. So.
Right.
We also did research, and Kathy put out requests for other communities, but there aren't very many examples of communities doing things with America 250, and we did not get much feedback on logos in general. Brunswick does not allow use of the logo without, again, permission, like they have to go through a request. But they don't have anything for America 250, and I think the city of Mentor was the only one that responded where they do not allow any usage of their logo. So it wasn't really a lot out there to compare to.
Reggie?
I was going to ask if you got any feedback from potential vendors in regards to that 250 logo.
So for usage of the logo, the requests that we've gotten so far, it's only been from nonprofit and civic organizations wanting to put it on their little program. The veterans have ideas for different plaques for the 9/11 Memorial and a few of our other parks, but no requests to actually use it to make money, to sell merchandise yet. But I mean, it's still a little bit early, so we're just trying to cover both bases.
So if it's not for profits, is it a possibility of reducing that fee then?
Well, not-for-profits won't have to pay the fee
Okay,
to use
good.
the logo unless they plan on selling merchandise and making money from it. So, but if they just are wanting to use it for their programs or, like the veterans want to use it for these various plaques, I think they have 4 or 5 different plaques that they want to use the logo for, then we would not be charging them the fee.
Yeah, and Kimberly and I spoke about this, coming up with a fee. It kind of made sense since it's $250, charge $250.
Yeah, I think we had a couple of conversations we talked about this in the Board of Control meeting originally, about the fee and the form, and then we had to go back and do research, and then in talking with Greg, he said for the licensing fee, it would require council's approval.
Any other questions?
Mr. Chairman?
Paul?
Just, maybe I'm starting to think like Greg a little too much, but does this, if we charge, will that open us up to any liability should some accident or anything happen like that? Okay, all right, good.
No, the logo is copyrighted, so if people use it without our authorization, there's legal ramifications on that.
Okay, all right.
And the fee is just there because of the time and expense to deal with this form.
Okay,
Because we have no idea, somebody could sell 1,000 shirts, let's say, or 500 shirts, and who's going to go out and count the shirts and make sure that we're not, not me. So, because there's no way to keep track of it. It's going to be very difficult to audit the process. So we just wanted to have, a fee in there just to, people wanted to make money off of this logo, which is fine, but we want some money to handle our expense of dealing with the issue, I guess.
Well, and you have to also remember that we don't want people just taking the logo, maybe off our website or some other document, and then using it without our knowledge. That's not acceptable, because we don't know what people are using it for. So this way, we're treating everybody the same. Everybody fills out the form. If it's a merchandise situation, they pay a flat fee, and that's easy to track.
Sure.
How's the flat fee going to be collected?
We would collect it in our office and turn it over to Finance Department.
So it would have to be, someone have to come in with a check, it can't be electronically completed?
I'll let Keith answer that.
We'd be able to do that. It's not something that's pre-set up, but we could work it out. I
And
mean, I
you're
don't
not-
think it's going to come up 50 times a day, so we're not
No,
going to set
I
up
know,
a, you know
but,
what I mean?
Just if somebody's like.
But if somebody wanted to, we
Are you
could.
talking about Venmo? I don't think we have.
No, not,
Okay.
And there is no approval process for the use of the logo in a design.
no, they said they're going to approve it, the mayor.
You are going to approve the
Yeah.
The
we want-
design.
Yes, we
What
want
they're
them to.
using it on, what they're using it on.
Yeah.
Is it a hat, is it a shirt, is it
Is this logo
a
right
button? Right,
The 250.
yeah.
here? Yeah.
Mr. President, 2 questions on note. It's also going to be the City of Medina logo. It's not just the 250,
Yes.
correct?
Yeah, so when we started putting the form together, Mr. Shields, so on the form, we have a box, requested logo. Is it the City of Medina or America 250? So that way we know which one they want to use, or maybe they want to use both of them. So we just felt like we didn't want to have two separate forms, one for each logo.
I know, yeah, I just wanted to clarify, because we're talking a lot about the 250 logo, but it's
Yeah.
also anytime somebody, like it's going to, after the 250 this summer, people are going to still use this form for probably the City of Medina logo.
That's correct.
Yep. And then you did request emergency clause?
So for the emergency clause, yes, we did, because we are getting requests to use the logos. People are already gearing up for America 250 is the end of the year, so we'd like to have this process in place as soon as possible. Thank you.
Okay, questions?
Move to approve with the emergency clause?
Second, including the emergency clause?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. 25-224, new line item for Medina Town Hall and Engine House Museum. Chet?
Yes. The Town Hall and Engine House Museum, they have a very small treasury, $5,800. They write 3 checks a year, maybe 4 checks a year, deposit once a quarter, very minimal. Checking account fees eats up a lot of it even, you know. So they talked with Keith, and Keith said that'd be something we could incorporate with that minimal activity. The Engine House Museum, extension of the archives, so it's already a city function. So I think it makes sense to put it underneath Keith's umbrella, finance umbrella.
But where's it at now?
Checking account with the Engine House Museum.
Well, who's in charge of that?
Roger Smalley and now Paul Wood run that.
So I
with,
guess when you say what's going to happen to that checking account, is that,
it'll be closed.
Yeah, so I need to sit down with Roger and figure out, what I wanted out of this meeting was, is this okay with everybody? I'm assuming we're gonna have to create a fund. When we create a fund, we have to send a form to the state auditor's office and request to create the fund for the Town Hall and Engine House Museum, and then that money that's in their checking account will be contributed to that fund, and then we would take the receipts and write the checks going forward. And I need to work out the mechanics of that, but what I wanted to know from you first is if that sounds okay, and then if it does, I'll sit down with Roger and figure out what all we're doing and go from there.
What kind of effort is that going to cause your department?
For the transactions that Chet's talking about, not a lot.
It's
I mean,
a-
if they start having, if they start writing 10 checks a day, then that's different. But, for the time being, I think they don't have a lot of activity. They just have, they sell a few things at the museum there. And then
accept
they,
I
donations.
was going to say, and
Take
I'm assuming,
donations.
Keith, those donations need to be turned in within
They-
24 hours.
Right, they would have to get deposited, they'd have to get turned into the finance office with, the 24 hours is next business day if it's on the weekend. But, I mean, yeah, they'd have to get them to us right away.
what type of liability does that create? Meaning, now that you're responsible for the money and the donations coming in, what does that do for our auditors and for our liability coverage? Because we're taking on additional obligations.
For the auditors, I don't think it would be they're not really going to look at it. It wouldn't be material to they audit the city as a whole, and the whole thing wouldn't be material to the city. It's obviously, you're taking cash at a place that's not City Hall. There is some risk there, but it's not a big enough amount of money that it would trip the auditors to be overly concerned. As far as liability, that's more of a Greg question, but I don't see it.
I'm just saying, because now you have another avenue, what the auditors always ask, where can fraud occur? And when
Right.
you deal with cash, that's the biggest spot fraud can occur, because of cash. So, I don't know how that, it's your department, so.
Yeah, I mean, if somebody pocketed some of the money, that's a problem. But it's not, as far as impact on the city overall, we weren't doing it before. So if we didn't get it, it wouldn't have a big impact on the city.
No, I think the impact is little, but I think the mechanism, we just have to be careful, because now
Right.
you're taking on another obligation with cash, and that would be the issue.
The amount seems immaterial, really. A good month is $100, with donations and things. So last year was only $1,400 for the whole year. The only checks they wrote were 3 for reimbursements, as they added a new 50-year display in that timeline.
Well, I guess my question would be, if the Engine House, do they have their own 501c3, I take it?
No.
It is a separate, there is a 501c3, I believe.
Oh, okay, I did not
So I
think
guess
there
the
was.
question is, what agreement will be reached? Because now you're dealing with taking money from the 501c3, and it's going to the city. It's still both tax deductible, but that doesn't matter anymore under the code. But I guess I just want to make sure there's got to be some type of agreement, I would imagine, between the two, if it's being made out to the Engine House, which is a 501c3, and then being given to the city, or is it everything going to be made out to the city?
Well, if we set this up, what I'm envisioning is we would create a fund for the Town Hall and Engine Museum Fund. And then any money that was contributed to that fund could only be used there. So any money that they had that they pushed over to it would have essentially the same restrictions that it has now.
Well, just as Greg Huber would say, since he's not here, no good deed goes unpunished. So that's Greg Huber's, that's what he would say, because you're trying to do something good, but you're going to get hit with something.
To answer your question, once the city takes it over, the checks would have to be written to the city.
Right, I don't.
Right.
So I guess the first question is, maybe you should have a conversation directly with Roger to make sure that everything's, and he understands all this stuff, because he may say, well, I don't want the checks made to the city, I want them made out to the museum, because, and if he says that, then we say, okay, you keep it then.
Yeah, and like I said, I will have that meeting with Roger. I wanted to see from here if this sounds okay to everybody, and then if what concerns you have, and then I'll talk to Roger and get the mechanics to what we actually need to do.
Question, Chet, did I hear you say that the fees are chewing up the,
No, it's a nuisance to have those bank fees coming out every month.
okay, Huntington is not the only bank,
Right.
okay? Try another bank.
Well,
That might be the simplest thing, just take your money out of there, go to another bank. First National Bank, for example. I've yet to have a fee taken out of my checking account, okay? And I've had a couple of business accounts in there too. So check with them. That might be the simplest solution here.
Yeah.
Because I'm thinking if a check bounces, where does the money come from if we have the fund? Okay? Do we have to front up the money? So that would be my first recommendation. Call around
I
other
just say
banks.
Greg Huber.
Okay?
I mean, all these things are valid questions, and the whole point is how's it really going to work, and what is the expectations of the Engine House, I guess is the question.
No, I was going to say too, I think what's happened a couple times over the years, when the foundations have donated, they could have donated to the 501c3, but because it was the Engine House owned by the city, they ended up making the donation directly to the city. And I think that's what Roger's thinking. It seems most times that money's used for things in the museum that, in a building that's owned by the city. Because I'm pretty sure when they helped do some of the construction and things there, that it came directly to the city as opposed to the,
It did. Yeah.
and I think Roger's trying to find, just to make sure the city will always be
Well,
here.
just, maybe just check with Roger and get it nailed down, then we could approve something.
I'll talk to Roger, and I'll also ask, to Paul's point, if the fees are really the main issue here, or if the main issue is they don't really want to do it.
Or
And I
you
don't.
just want to
The
streamline it?
the main issue is to streamline it. Roger is interested in turning over some things, the day-to-day operations, it turned over to Paul Wood financially. If he could turn it over to the city, he would feel better about that.
Okay.
So it's streamlining and cleaning it up.
All right, well, Keith, have a conversation, let us know.
Will do.
Okay, thanks, Chad. 25-225, transfer MCL 9444 from Medina City Development to the city. Kimberly?
Thank you, Mr. President. The city of Medina transferred 3 city lots known as the South Elmwood Parking Lot to the Medina City Development Corporation, and that was via ordinance 79-24, so last year. It was 3 parcels. Development Corporation had those 3 parcels surveyed and consolidated, which now has formed a new city lot, which is number 9444. The Development Corporation is in the process of having a new deed prepared and plat filed so that we get a new parcel number assigned. So that will go from the CIC 3 lots to the CIC 1 lot. Now, the Development Corporation would like to transfer the lot back to the city of Medina for the purposes of enhancing economic development in that area, which entails a parking lot renovation to include increasing the parking spaces from 40 to 81 total spaces. Of those 81 spaces, 77 of them will be regular parking spaces, and 4 of them would be ADA parking spaces. There are a couple of different grant opportunities that have come out from the state within the last week or so, which we're going to talk about that a little bit later on down the, in the agenda. But should the city accept the transfer back to them, then we would also have to have Huber decide if he wants to prepare the deed to go from the CIC to, back to the city, or if we want to hire Rob Skidmore. So the CIC hired Rob Skidmore to do the first step, which is to go from 3 lots down to 1. We have to have that deed first and get a new parcel number assigned.
Well, there's more to the story. Remember we transferred it to the CIC. The purpose we transferred it to the CIC is because the hotel project was going to, the CIC was going to ground lease that parking lot to the hotel project, and they were going to improve the parking lot all themselves, and then we would be able to use it as a public parking lot on major events around the square, and they would be able to use it on a continuing basis for their hotel. So they went out to bid and found out it's going to cost $400,000 at least to improve the parking lot, which includes a stormwater detention or retention basin located on site. And that's just too much money for them, so they decided that they didn't want exclusive use any longer, that the city could have it anytime they want it, no questions asked. They can't close it off, they can't use it for their particular purpose, but they would be able to use it. And in order for them to use it, they said, you know, if we're going to be able to use it during any time that we want, along with the city, we would contribute up to about $200,000 for the improvements on the parking. So they would pay for about half of the cost to improve the parking spots. But they would never have exclusive use. It would always be a public parking spot because the city would own it, right? So that's kind of where we're at, and that's why it was consolidated, and it's going to come back to the city. It would be a city-owned lot, but there would be a contribution made by a private entity in improving the parking area for a public purpose. And also, we would have to come up with the other money to improve it also, because it would be a public parking lot. So it's a trade-off there.
And there's also some advantage for some drainage issues and things that we were having that we would do at the same time here that we could help on.
Right, because there's a drainage problem, because everything goes down to Smith and causes flooding issues. So this, a retention basin on site would help. Now, the only way to do this, and the reason it comes back to the city, because the city has the ability to apply for a capital improvement grant. Is that what it's called?
So it's actually a Department of Development grant, which I'm going to talk about, but I'm looking into another grant opportunity. I think that we may be able to get more of the costs covered. But you're jumping ahead, so I wasn't ready to
Might as well talk about it all now. Just talk about the grants.
It's all connected.
It's all
Okay.
connected.
Well,
All right, so-
the CIC cannot apply for the grant.
Correct.
The city has to apply for the grant in either of these grant opportunities. So that's why it needs to come back to the city. And out of fairness, Mr. Coyne's exactly right. In the discussions that we had on this in the CIC while I was in Florida, they talked about up to 200,000, but if the grant pays, for argument's sake, for 100 or 150, I think the hotel is open to a 50-50 split of the remainder, which would make our side less, their side less, and we get a parking lot with more than twice the spaces, with permanent lighting, with electric, not just solar, and landscaping, and something that we can all be proud of and use. So yeah, that's kind of the big picture. Right?
And the grant?
Okay, so if we're going to jump down to that. So the other request that I had on the agenda was to authorize the mayor to apply for Department of Development Building Demo Site Revitalization Grant for the South Elmwood lot and execute any and all the paperwork. So the Medina County Land Bank is the lead entity for this specific grant, which we have to submit applications by November 19th. Right now, the project's looking to be right around $500,000, and under this grant, eligible expenses are somewhere around 127, almost 128,000, but we don't know about the prevailing wage portion. So if you add another 20%, so we're right around 162,000. But there's certain things that are not covered under this grant, like asphalt is a big one, and maybe some other things, electrical, utilities, and whatnot. There's another program that, so I kind of would like to call an audible on this application. It's a brownfield remediation program, because when I checked with Kathy today, when the city originally bought it from the commissioners, there were due diligence items, things that they were supposed to provide. Well, we got the deed and the title insurance, but no environmental reports or anything like that, so we don't know if a phase 1 or phase 2 was ever done. Under brownfield remediation, those expenses could be covered along with infrastructure and utilities, so I think we may have a better chance on this other grant, but I feel like I want to apply for both of them. I don't know if that's possible, we have to look into that, but the brownfield remediation grant, I think, has broader expenses that could be covered, and we have a little more time because the city does not have to go through the land bank on the brownfield remediation. We can apply directly to the state. So I need to research it a little bit more, because I just downloaded this information and started looking into it. And I said, this might be a better possibility. So the one grant has a deadline coming up, like I said, November 19th, but the other one is due December 5th. And the grant, the brownfield remediation one, that's a grant for $300,000.
That sounds better.
So I feel like it's yes, I feel like it might be a better fit, but we also have to make an economic development argument, which, Mr. President, you kind of already made the argument for me, so thank you, which is to support the hotel project. And so I think the rules state that, because there's a scoring rubric, right? They're going to look at the economic development impact of your project. And we're going to be able to tie it to the hotel, saying, hey, this is to support a $25 million investment, or whatever the number is. I think it's $25 million. So if it's okay, if council would authorize us to do both of those grants.
Or you're motivated, because I asked you the next question when we talked is, where are you getting the money?
Oh, I have some numbers for you. Yeah, I had to do a little more digging. Hold on a second here. We had Huber looking into what is referred to as the 108 account, Stormwater Streets, but he said this project wouldn't be eligible. But they have $12.5 million in that account, just in case you want to know. The 143 account, which is the Economic Development JED Fund, only has $127,302. There's not much in there. And I don't know, Keith, we didn't get any recent, I don't think we got any recent deposits, because usually Mary. Yeah, so I don't know about that one. And then the 301, known as the General Purpose Capital, has $4,670,000, $670,986.57. And then the 389 account, which is the unanticipated capital, I think is what it's called, has $1,636,704.10. Now, these were numbers that I got from Lori on November 4th when I asked her if she could send me the unencumbered balances for those 4 accounts. So those were the numbers she gave me. Now, she said, I still have a few things to enter for September and October, but this should be close to current balances for these funds. So with that, I think we're going to take the 108 off the table. And then that leaves 143, 301, and 389, but 143 doesn't really have that much money. That's the JED fund. But I would like to remind council that originally, when the city bought this lot from the commissioners, remember it was 50,000, 51,000, and I paid for that out of the JED fund. So I kind of feel like we already
We
contributed.
appreciate that.
But I feel like
love
we
your
already
contribution.
contributed, so we shouldn't be double dipping.
I understand what you're saying. No, so there are options. I guess that's what it comes down to.
Yeah.
But the biggest option is Kimberly working her magic and getting a large grant.
Right.
I think there's no pressure, but, you know,
I know.
$300,000 grant will be nice.
Well, I'm going to do my best to get that one. I think we have a good case for it. But it's just when I filled out the RCA, I really focused on this other one because I really hadn't looked into this, so I didn't know about it. I was thinking that this brownfield was going to go through Port Authority again, and I just found out, no, it's not going through Port Authority. We can go directly to the state. So if we could have council, I don't know if it's, I don't know if we
Bless
could-
both grants?
Yes, that's what I'm
Well, she
asking.
wants both blessed, and we have to pass it with the emergency clause, and it goes on both finance and
Yes.
council in order to accomplish it, because November 19th is the deadline.
Right.
Yeah,
Which,
17th.
so now you know all the background with all the grants, and
Yeah.
it kind of makes sense.
yeah.
So,
We have a little more time if we go the brownfield route, but for sure this other one is November 19th. Either way, I'm going to come back and give you an update on what we're doing, but if I could have the blessing tonight for both, that would be helpful.
well, the one problem that you mentioned to me that you didn't address tonight is that the property has to be held in the name of the city in order to apply for the grant, correct?
No, I already cleared that hurdle. So it's really, the grant applications, they just want to know who owns it at this moment.
Okay.
Now, I know we're going through this transfer process, and I don't know how long that takes.
Not long, but I guess the
well-
question is, when you say at that moment, but doesn't the city have to own it in order to apply for a grant that's only can be issued to the city?
No, it does, it's not, it does, they don't list it out that, like, for this ODOD grant, I talked to Bethany about that. I said, hey, it's still under the CIC ownership, and she says, that's okay. Just put that on the grant application, and we'll make a note that it's in the process of being transferred back to the city. So the question really is, does council want to accept the lot back? And it's all consolidated now. And by the way, the CIC paid for that. Well, we still have to write the check, but you know what I mean.
Well, the bigger question is, if we don't accept it back, the CIC has to pay the city the fair market value of the land as it is today, which could be $1 million.
No. Did you get an appraisal?
We're working on that. No, but, so, if the city take it back, the CIC doesn't have to reimburse, because remember, the CIC has to reimburse the city all the money that was given to the CIC, just like the land here by Solly's, the fair market value of the land, which was $350,000 or something like that, even though it was gifted to us at a far less value.
Well,
I'm in favor
remember,
of it.
you only paid $50,000 for it, and it's pretty deplorable shape, so I doubt that it's worth $1 million. It's probably gone down in value.
Pretty sure it didn't, but.
Yeah, I'm in favor of simply because if it's transferred back to the city, we would be able to use it along with the hotel, but we would be able to use it at
Without
any
any
time.
restrictions.
And the hotel's still gonna pay 50% of whatever the cost is gonna be at the very end if we get those grants or not. So I'm in favor of that.
Yeah, so keep in mind that the improvements, I mean, it's not just the number of spaces.
Right, no, I
I
totally
mean, we're increasing
understand.
the numbers, we're like doubling it, right? But there'll be new lighting there, there'll be
Right,
new
the
signage
whole thing.
there,
Yeah, I
new
get that.
landscaping
New
there.
retention basin.
Yes, and it's kind of solving another problem for the city, which was the stormwater
Right.
drainage.
And more parking.
And I think the other thing we talked about too, long-term, if we lose the Sully's lot to a development, which we hope we will, that's going to be spaces near the square that are no longer there. And now we're thinking ahead and we're adding spaces right around the corner on Elmwood.
Yes, that's correct. Now, keep in mind, the hotel will have on-site parking, but then this will be overflow, and in this scenario that we're proposing by bringing it back into the city's ownership, it will be 100% public parking.
Any other questions?
as far as answering the question about the funding, I think the 301 general capital, since it is a capital.
But we got to find out how much will be left after the courthouse projects. I know that
Well-
that's not all been encumbered yet.
That's not all been, okay, I thought that was after the courthouse encumbrance. Okay.
So when will we know about that courthouse for the 301?
Well, I think the question tonight is, do we want to move it back to the city?
Yeah.
Is one question, and is council going to bless you applying for both grants? That's the only question right now.
Well, Mr. Coyne always wants to know about the money, so
Right,
I would
I
kind of like to
totally
know a
get that,
little
but-
bit about that, but if we're not ready to talk about that, that's
Right.
fine. I had the numbers.
You did.
I mean, as far as if we get a grant for this, we're talking, what, 400,000 for the whole project, and we're looking for a grant, and then them paying for part of it, we're looking at like $100,000. We'll have
Right.
it.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't, whatever the court ends up being, we'll have it when we get there. I think you're right. We need to move forward on the other stuff and see what grants we get.
Right.
We know.
Well, in full transparency though, because we don't want to have the council misled, 400,000 estimate does not include fair labor wages. And if the city takes it back over, it has to be fair labor wages, which is roughly a 20 to 30% increase on top of 400. Now, anything we can offset with the grants, obviously, is to everybody's benefit, but I just want that number out there.
Any other questions?
Okay, I'll make a motion then to accept or to transfer Medina City Lot 9444 from the CIC back to the city of Medina
Second, with the emergency clause?
with the emergency clause.
Yes,
Thank you.
including the emergency clause.
And what about the grants?
Those are different.
That's
They're
different.
different.
Yeah,
Okay.
it comes up.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Kimberly, you made it halfway. 25-226, accept a SWOMA agreements with the engineering department. Patrick?
Thank you. There are actually three different, these are called stormwater operation maintenance agreements. They're required by the EPA when a development hits a certain size. Basically, it's just an agreement that does get recorded where the property owner accepts responsibility for maintenance and repair on their stormwater management systems.
Questions?
Move to approve?
Second,
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. 25-227, increased expenditure to Retzel and Anders for the law department. Mayor?
Yes, sir. So originally, they had $15,000, and as I mentioned earlier, Todd Hunt is doing some work for us, and Greg is requesting to increase that by another 20 for a grand total of $35,000 to get us through the end of the year.
Thank you. And as I have familiarity with Retzel and Anders, I'd have to abstain from this vote. Any other questions?
Move to approve?
second,
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Aye. Carries. 25-228, a grant assistance for a new hangar at Medina Municipal Airport. Patrick?
Yeah, thank you. A week before last, we became aware of a brand-new state program through ODOT that opens up potential funding for hangars at airports. It's funding up to $750,000. We have a need for new hangars at the airport, so we're looking into it. Greg's not here. I think he really wanted to offer some comments, so maybe we'll just ask to discuss this here tonight. The grant is due December 31st, so even if we don't move it tonight, we've still got 2 more meetings to hit that, as long as we can get an emergency clause. But yeah, that's it. A new hangar is going to be $1 to $1.2 million. This would go a long way. Talking to some folks, this is the first time ODOT's ever offered this type of grant. So really, it's going to be competitive. We don't know how competitive. We don't know what kind of shot we got, but you miss every shot you don't take, so.
Wayne Gretzky said that, I think.
That's right. We do have some things going for us, though. We have the land available. It's graded. We have utilities to that site. We definitely have a need for additional hangar space. So those are all favorable to our argument, but whether we're successful or not, we'll find out. But I know Greg had some ideas. The mayor wants to get in some comment about building this, and I think he wants to discuss it before we move on.
So Ron was out of town last week, but Ron runs the airport for us. But Greg was able to get a hold of him and tell him about this opportunity. And Greg seems to think it makes some sense, but I would defer to Pat if he would feel better waiting till the 24th when Greg is here. But the chance would be if we could use grant dollars to offset the overall price. Greg's plan was to have the hangar tore down and rebuilt from Ron, totally Ron, and we lease the land and he charges the rent to recoup his investment. If we can offset that price with the lease, then there's going to have to be some sort of agreement between the city and Ron so that the city gets the lease money or recoups some of the money due to the grant offsetting the price.
All right, so I guess we wait until Huber's healthy?
Yeah, I think
Or
that'd be
or the
good.
24th,
Yeah.
whichever comes first.
Yeah.
Okay.
No offense, Greg.
All right, well, we'll hold that one until the next meeting to see how he is, I guess. Let's see if he's back. 25-229 grant application for ODOD building demolition for site revitalization. Is this Patrick?
No, this is Kimberly's, and this is the one.
Oh, this is the other one for you.
This is where you jumped ahead, and so
Okay.
now I think, like I said, we would just respectfully ask council for approval to move forward on these two
Okay.
grant applications.
Kimberly, what's the name of the second grant?
Yes, so it's brownfield remediation program.
Is that the same program we're using with Yosunoco currently?
It is, it's a little bit modified from the last time they put that monies out there. There was, for Yosunoco, under brownfield remediation, there were two tracks. There were an assessment track, and then there was a remediation track. The Yosunoco, we used it for the assessment. And then this year, this round of funding, like I mentioned, the state, last time it was first come, first serve. So everybody was just hurrying up and, putting all these applications in. Now the state is saying, hey, we're going to have a metric and a scoring system for it. So, where it's tied to an economic development project.
Okay, any other questions?
So my motion then will be that the city apply for, we move forward with two grant applications, one for the ODOD building demolition site revitalization, as well as the brownfield remediation program grant
And
with the emergency clause.
with the emergency clause. My second includes the emergency clause.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. 25-230 engineering design services, job number 1176, State Route 357 resurfacing. Patrick?
Thank you. ODOT notified us some time ago that they wanted to partner with us to do the resurfacing of Route 3 and 57. ODOT's share will be $990,000 in construction dollars out of an anticipated little over $2 million project. We are required to get the design work done. So we went through as required, consultant selection process, and we've determined that GPD is the most qualified, and ask that you accept an agreement with them. I did note in my request to council, I referred to the wrong project. The title is correct, but I mentioned State Route 3 from Public Square to the city limits. That's a future project that we're just going through the selection process now. You'll see that later. This will resurface Route 3 basically from the square south to the city limits, and 57 the same.
Questions?
Move to approve?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. 25-231 easements for job number 1123, North Huntington Reconstruction Phase 3. Patrick?
Thank you. We need several easements to get our North Huntington project going. We have acquired signatures from two of the property owners, and that's what we're asking you to accept.
Questions?
Move to approve with the emergency clause?
Second, including the emergency clause?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. 25-232, accept fair market value estimates for South Huntington Street Bridge. Patrick?
Yes, again, easements, we need a total of 9 for the Huntington Street Bridge project. These are 8 of them. The other one hasn't been submitted to us yet. But basically, these FMBEs are their appraised value, and by accepting this, you are authorizing our right-of-way consultant to make an offer up to that amount for each easement.
Questions?
And also the emergency clause, Patrick.
Yes, yeah, we like to get this going as quickly as we can.
Move to approve with the emergency clause.
Second including emergency clause?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Well, that's it for the agenda items, but I had one thing I was thinking about. Unfortunately, I was watching TV, and I was, we were hearing on the news about the government shutdown, and both parties can't do anything anymore. And I was thinking to myself, these SNAP benefits are out, and how many people in the city of Medina are food insecure? And I remember back in COVID times when we gave grants to the businesses, and, I want to see what the council's flavor is for, maybe donating money or trying to figure a way to feed the poor in Medina, city of Medina, because they're not going to, even if the government opens up, it's going to take weeks before they get food to the people on the SNAP program and the people who need the food. And it seems like we did this for the businesses. Why can't we do it for the residences? So I just want to ask, what do people think about, setting aside money to buy food for the residents that are in need, that are on the SNAP program or qualify to get the food, because it is the holiday season, and, why wouldn't we want to try to help out? So what are people's thoughts? Do you have any thoughts on that?
So I looked at, briefly at Feeding Medina County. So I understand that that's the county, but the days coming up for people to come to Medina is going to be the week before Thanksgiving, is when it's on a Thursday, I
It's on
believe.
Thursday.
Yeah.
Third
The
Thursday,
fairgrounds.
yeah.
Yeah, the third Thursday, okay, yeah. So, I mean, if we could do something, that would probably be the best time to try and get something going.
I think last time we gave it through Cups because we knew they
Okay.
were located here. I don't know if we want to check with them to see if they could.
Well, as long as it's a city residence, I don't think we want to give money from the city to the
other
county people.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Right?
Right.
I mean, we want to keep it in the city so that we can make sure that, because again, I don't think the federal government's going to get the money there
In time.
this year.
Well, and as I understand it, this is going to take effect, but then they're going to be renegotiating this again at the end of January. So I had some angst and some heartburn over the weekend. And so I have a couple stories to share in regards to SNAP and food prices. So I went shopping after work on Friday, and I was angry. I went to a local grocery store on Friday to pick up dinner, and there was something that I looked at to buy, and I had bought 3 cans, and I'm just going to tell you what it was, as silly as it sounds. I bought 3 cans of fruit cocktail last month, and I don't think I paid more than $1.50 per can. Friday, I went into a local grocery store, and that same can was $2.99. This is a month later. I was angry. And of course, sometimes I'm not real good with keeping stuff to myself, right? So when I get to the checkout counter, I tell the woman, I almost had a heart attack in the aisle. And she looks at me, I tell her why. And you know what this woman tells me? She says, I'm retired, but because of the cost of food, I had to come back to work so I can afford food for me and my husband. It's just her and her husband. Today, I was out and about running my errands for work, and I talked with some people about the SNAP program. And one of the women who's gainfully employed told me that she has a child, a young child, and she worked full-time, and her child got cancer. She had to quit her job so she could stay home and take care of her son, and had to get SNAP benefits. Now, if the price of food continues the way it is, God knows I need to lose some weight. But you know what? My skinny clothes, where I lost all that weight, are going to become my fat clothes again, because the price of food, it's outrageous. It's outrageous. And how many of us are going to potentially be looking to get assistance from a SNAP program because the price of food is going so high? It made me angry. It made me angry. And I'm very concerned about the direction that we are going in our country with the prices, whereas so many members of our community are going to need assistance. So I'm all in favor of a program that can help our residents, and I'm pretty sure we've got multiple organizations here, maybe not directly just the city, but work with the county, where we could get information that would give us guidance as to how we could distribute the food, because we're not in the business of giving away money.
Right.
The need is food.
We help
And
businesses.
I work at the fairgrounds, so I'm going to drive through that parking lot when they have feeding Medina County, and I shudder to think of how many cars are going to be going through that parking lot to get food this month before Thanksgiving. And then my other heartburn is, unless you've been living under a rock, how many companies are laying off people now in the near future? There's going to be a lot of people who are unemployed. And when you're unemployed, that cuts into your money situation drastically and quickly. So I think we as a society, we need to think about those things. And if you're not in favor of helping our citizens, I don't want to know who you are. I want to know what you are. Thank you.
Thanks, Reggie. But in thinking about this, it sounds like then you have to figure out a way to implement it. And it sounds like there's a time crunch from what Natalie's saying, and making sure that, you know, what type of funds, because you're correct, we're not giving money to people. We have to give money to an organization that buys the food and gives the food to the people that live in the city of Medina. I think that's what we want to try to accomplish. So I guess the question would be, you know, what do you envision this looking like? Or, you know, I was just, like I said, I was watching the TV and I said, what's going on here? I said, what are all these people going to do? It's the holidays.
Right,
What,
it's a mess.
what are we doing? And I thought about what we did for COVID, and I thought about what we're doing for the developer for the hotel. And, you know, we got to think about a number, maybe 100,000, 150,000, maybe we're talking about, to try to help feed the people that are going to be in the most need at the time where they're going to need it.
And they need
Which
it
is
now.
now.
You know, the churches have systems established. Maybe we could go through them, and with that criteria, we can say, as long, you know, give away as you normally do, but use this money to give to City of Medina residents.
Right.
Well,
Because that way, you know, they can implement it rather quickly, because it's already established. We're just adding to their
Well, let's see, I mean,
ability to purchase.
contact your people.
Feeding
'cause-
Medina County, though, does the weekender bags.
They do.
They
yep.
do, and those are distributed at the schools. I don't know if there's a way we could say, hey, we'd like to, you know, get this money to the Medina City schools for their weekender bags.
What's
Or,
up?
you-
There's got to be city residents, though,
Right,
right?
but they,
It can't be the,
can't be, yeah.
Medina City Schools, a lot of county
Yeah, yeah,
residents
you're
in
right,
there that we
you're
don't
right.
want to, we don't want to get involved in that, because we can't.
Right,
But-
right.
but-
Because we only can spend money in the city for city.
Right,
people.
but the cities,
They do.
right.
Feeding Medina County, they break it up by building, so
Yes.
there's no problem
Yep.
there. But we can, that's an option. And I know the mayor's going to tell you, we've been copied, the schools have a whole program in place right now with some of the churches and resources that we're sending out to parents, but I think
Right. So according to our state representative, Medina County has 9,500 people on SNAP. Every month, that costs $900,000 every month. And the state can't maintain that for an extended period of time, obviously, and that's some of the decisions that were made on the state level, right or wrong, that's some of the decisions. Grace Church has come forward. I shared it with, I think, the council and the utilities department, that they will provide $150 to any family identified in need of food. And we simply give them the contact information at Grace Church, and they'll get them squared away. And then Feeding Medina County on November 4th, I had to keep those statistics, so I quoted them right for you. But on Tuesday, November 4th, from 3 to 7, the Salvation Army and Feeding Medina County collectively are doing food drives, again, to offset the impacts of food drives, money drives, whatever, to impact the SNAP recipients. And then last but not least, one of the members of Medina Hospital was on one of the food giveaways here within the last week or 2 weeks. And she went back and reported to President Rogers of the hospital, the new president of our hospital, that what is going on and the need. And I just don't have this number right. It's either $90,000 or $100,000. The hospital made a donation to Feeding Medina County to assist with that. So we are seeing some efforts being made. As has been discussed, and I don't want to reiterate it, but Medina County handles the entire county. There are methods to restrict it, or for that matter, Cups Cafe, I think is pretty much in the city. Salvation Army, I think, stays pretty holistic in the city here. So
Well,
those are some options.
Yeah, I mean, I guess let's gather that information and maybe give it to Kathy or Teresa. And we probably should have, it sounds like a special council meeting next week, end of next week, before Thanksgiving, to say this is how we're going to do it and this is what we're going to do to help the people. Because I think, like I said, we do a lot of stuff for the businesses all the time, and this is something we could do for the residents, because this is the time that they're going to be struggling the most, is not only because of what's going on at the federal level and the state level, but it's holiday season. So it's even worse. So I think we could probably do something that would be helpful and it'll have an immediate impact.
Right.
Which would be something we should do, I guess, as a local government.
Right, absolutely.
As a task, I'd be happy to contact Feeding Medina County, Salvation Army, those organizations to find out if they would be able to identify city residents and if that would be something that they could do to isolate city only within their operations.
Sure.
And then just kind of report back to that meeting.
Sure, yeah. So if everybody can, look and try to, maybe the end of next week, Thursday or something, I don't know, just to put something together, because that'll give us a little about a week and a half to come up with a plan that we'd be able to approve and implement, if that works out with everybody. Okay?
Yep.
All right, that's all I have. Anybody else have anything else?
I'll make a motion at 7:05 or 7:07 PM to go into executive session for preparing for, conducting, or reviewing negotiations or bargaining sessions with public employees concerning their compensation or other terms and compensation of their employment, to include the mayor.
We also need to add pending litigation, if we could, please.
Okay, I'll add that, but is there anybody, Mayor, is there anybody?
just me.
Just the mayor. And then our second situation would be, let's see here, we're going to do conferences with normally the law director of the city concerning disputes involving the city that are subject to pending or imminent court action.
Second. Clerk, please call the roll.
DeSalvo.
Yes.
Rose.
Yes.
Shields.
Yes.
Coin.
Yes.
Simpson.
Yes.
Hare.
Yes.
Simmons.
Yes.
Motion passes.
We'll be recessing into executive session to discuss those items outlined by Mr. Shields, returning back into finance to adjourn from finance, not taking any action on any item discussed in the executive session. We are in recess.